Right, guys, I'd just like to expand a little bit on not the cost of living so much, but the comparison between um, Portugal and Bulgaria, because it was a big consideration at one stage for me because uh, I was looking to expand a little bit into Portugal, and I always liked Portugal, and if I was ever going to go anywhere else apart from Bulgaria or the Balkans, it would have been Portugal. So the first consideration would have been the cost of living, but I've been through that in the last vid. But I didn't mention rents in Bulgaria versus Portugal. So the video I was watching was I think it's Louise was going through the costs in Portugal, and the rent she was paying €600, but she did say that was excessive, and it was a little bit like she had to take the place, and so let's call it 400. So and call that the benchmark in Portugal for a decent place. Now in Bulgaria, I would say it was more like 300 for a good place. I mean, at very, you're not going to be roughing it at €300, which is 600 lev in Bulgaria, either in the town, like an apartment, or in the countryside for a house. You can get it for €300 is going to get you a very decent place, and then after that, the costs like the council tax isn't really worth mentioning. It's gonna be like £1 to £2 per month, and we've been through the firewood and all that before. So there's a comparison between Bulgaria and Portugal rent-wise. Now, if you're going to buy a place, it's cheaper in Bulgaria to get like more for your bang for your buck. You've got to be careful where you buy, just like anywhere. If you're buying a place in the UK, you wouldn't be buying on the most notorious housing estates in Europe. So you've got to apply that to these places, and you've got to do your research, and you don't want to end up in places, you don't want to end up in a deserted village in the middle of nowhere with no amenities, no shops. You can get remote places, but the nearby good centres, and that's kind of where we are here, but you don't want to end up in the middle of nowhere, and the nearest town is like 25 miles away, and you also don't want to end up amongst people who don't share your values. So you can work that out for yourself, and there are plenty of places in Bulgaria which have people of different cultural and different ways of life, and you can fantasize all you like, but you won't be integrating with them, and they won't be integrating with you. So that's that out the way. Right, number two comparison would be climate. Now, a lot of people who go abroad from the UK and the US and places are looking for the heat, and other people aren't like me. I mean, I like the climate here because they do have a hot summer, but you can escape from the heat even in the summer. Because we live at altitude, not mega high, 600 meters above sea level, which is high enough to make it cool in even on the hottest days, and we can get up to 40 to 45 degrees here in the daytime. Not very often, but it does happen, and it did last year. We had like a week, and then another week, half a week, but not like all the time. But you can escape just about in the evenings, because it gets cooler in the evenings. Now, Portugal has a longer and hotter summer average temperatures than here, and it can be a little bit wet and windy in the winter, which I don't like the wind because it's on the Atlantic. So I prefer here because it is cold here, but it's not windy, and I can't stand the wind. Having lived in the northwest of England for a portion of my existence, and like to be in a place here with not much wind at all. Most of the time it's still, but it can get really cold. But like you don't get the wind chill factor, and that counts a lot. You can get wrapped up, and it's okay. Right. So that's the other thing to consider. Number 2 is climate. So if you like a bit of cold and a bit of heat, this is the place. But if you like it really hot, go to Portugal may be better. Right. So number 3, food. And I would say the food in Portugal is better. And I don't want to upset the Bulgarian people. That's just my personal opinion and my personal preference, that the food is better in Portugal. And I'm not talking about cost or anything like that. It's just like, like eating out there. I didn't think it was ever unreasonable. And I don't know the exact comparison right now, because Bulgaria has gone up, skyrocketed in eating out, and the quality hasn't really followed it. I think it was gouged a little bit in the 4-year dark days, and then coming out of that, as was the accommodation. Really, I think that's a bit high in Bulgaria, and the eating out, and takeaways have gone up a little bit, but not as much as eating out in restaurants, which I don't do anyway. But it's just for the information here. And I think the shopping wise, I think it's about the same. Portugal and Bulgaria, the cost of supermarkets is around about the same. Probably you get better meat there, like lamb and beef, which is very hard to find here. But we found it. Anyway, so that's the food. I would say Portugal gets the nod, on that one. So what are we up to now? Number 4. Let's say the scenery and the amenities and everything. Now, on this count, Bulgaria would win hands down. We've got everything here. We've got the mountains, and a lot of them. The scenery is jaw dropping everywhere you go. We've got skiing in the winter. Portugal has got like a couple of ski lifts, but I think it's just on the one mountain. Central Portugal. I forget the name. But there's only one, so that wouldn't be hard to find. But now the scenery here is drop dead, and Portugal is okay, but it's nothing. Doesn't even compare to Bulgaria, and it's a lot smaller actually. So there's a lot more of it here, and a lot more. The rivers and the mountains, and the coast is comparable to. You've got the Algarve, which is pretty picturesque in a lot of places. It's very, very nice. And we used to go to a place called Tavira, which wasn't really a package destination. It was more of a, it was an actual town. But it did have a few tourist things around the place. But the food there was absolutely fantastic. I don't know about now, because I haven't been there for a very long time. And the coast in Bulgaria is comparable. It's very nice, the Black Sea coast, and it's a lot more swimmer friendly than the Atlantic coast in Portugal, which is it's pretty wild on the Atlantic coast. We went to a place called Nazaré a couple of times, and that's like surfer territory, not really like people going paddling and that and swimming. It can be quite dangerous actually on that coast. So that's the one where Bulgaria would actually win, hands down. So you've got the food, the climate, the rents, the cost of living, and the climate. Did I mention that? Yeah. So and the general layout of the country. I mean, Bulgaria is a lot bigger than Portugal. So the cultural aspect, it's quite similar vibe. Both countries are very quiet, and especially in the rural areas. There's no, it's not very. These aren't extreme people. They're very quiet in both countries, very calm and very law-abiding. You're not really in much danger in either of the places. So I would say that was a draw, equal on that kind of thing, on the cultural aspect and the people. Both great people. And generally they all like a drink in various forms. I think the Portuguese prefer the wine rather than the hard stuff. In Bulgaria, they like the rakia and stuff like that. But so I think that pretty much covers it. So I think it would come down to really, in the end, climate. If I was really to have to make a choice, I would pick Bulgaria, because I would prefer most of my year to be cooler rather than hotter, and the cost of living is cheaper here in Bulgaria than Portugal, and it looks like by a fair margin. But it depends on your budget, and what you're looking for. Now, to finish off, I'd like to say there is now direct flights between Lisbon and Sofia, Bulgaria and Portugal. Direct flights, Wizz Air, very low cost. So anyone in Portugal, including the Portuguese people who may be watching, come and have a look at Bulgaria. It's cheap flights. And anyone in Sofia, the Bulgarian people or the Brits living here, go and have a look at Portugal, just even for a holiday, I'm going to go to Lisbon. I've been to Portugal many, 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 many times before, but I never really got into the depths of the centre of Lisbon. I've been through it a few times, maybe 3 or 4 times, but I've never stayed there. So I'm going to go on the Wizz Air, maybe this winter, maybe in the spring next year, and go and have a good look at Lisbon. Spend probably 2-3 weeks in Portugal, because I do like it. So this wasn't a competition, it was just like a sort of comparison for interest purposes only. And I do like the Portuguese flag. Cheers.